From the towering peaks of the Himalayan mountains to the serene shoals of the South China Sea, China asserts its dominion over a vast expanse of territory. The unveiling of a new national map by Beijing marks the latest chapter in its expansive vision of borders, stirring controversy among neighboring nations. The Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, Taiwan, and India, each embroiled in territorial disputes with China, have raised objections to the 2023 version of China's official map. Released on August 28th by the Chinese Ministry of Natural Resources, this updated map has sparked dissent and concern. Central to the controversy is a U-shaped line depicted on the map, reinforcing Beijing's territorial claims over nearly the entire South China Sea. This includes the West Philippine Sea, a region abundant in resources and of strategic importance, serving as a vital artery for trillions of dollars in trade annually. As tensions simmer and diplomatic dialogues unfold, the implications of China's expansive territorial assertions reverberate across the region, shaping the geopolitical landscape and underscoring the complexities of international relations. As if tracing the contours of contention, this line stretches into the exclusive economic zones of several countries. It ventures further still, enveloping the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh and the Himalayan border region of Aksai Chin, where China and India's claims overlap, as well as encroaching upon the Russian territory of Bolshoi Ussuriski Island. The unveiling of China's latest standard national map has ignited a storm of objections from at least 6 neighboring nations. This updated map, featuring a bold 10-dash line instead of the previous 9, boldly asserts China's claims over the South China Sea, with an additional dash extending to the east of Taiwan. Across the vast expanse of the South China Sea and along the Indian border, waves of anger and concern ripple in response to China's publication of this new official map. By renewing its illegal claims to the majority of the sea and staking new ones along the eastern shores of Taiwan and India, China has sparked heightened tensions and amplified the complexities of regional geopolitics. This could also indicate that China also sees Japanese islands in the Ryukyus as its territory. The new map repeats the 9-dash line claims made by China and rejected by the United Nations Law of the Sea Tribunal, while also claiming new territory around Taiwan and to the north of India. This comes days after President Xi Jinping declared at the latest BRICS summit that hegemonism is not in China's DNA. China has put one new dash in the eastern section of the democratic island of Taiwan. Beijing sees Taiwan as a renegade province subject to reunification. Also, inside this 10-dash line are the entire Spratly Islands, which include the Cagayan Island Group. More than 400 Filipino civilians, including 70 children, live in the Philippines' westernmost island. The island serves as the seat of the local government of the municipality of Cagayan and in Palawan province. The Philippines already challenged the then -9-dash line drawn by China before the Permanent Court of Arbitration. As the court invalidated Beijing's expansive claim, the Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs wasted no time in making their stance clear. Just a day after, on August 28th, they issued a firm statement rejecting China's 2023 version of the standard map. This map, now featuring a bold 10-dash line instead of the previous 9, purportedly delineates China's boundaries in the South China Sea. Yet this move is seen as the latest ploy to legitimize China's alleged sovereignty and jurisdiction over Philippine features and maritime zones, a claim that holds no legal ground under international law, notably the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. With diplomatic tensions on the rise, the Philippines boldly asserts its rights and stands firm against attempts to encroach upon its sovereignty and territorial waters. This clash of claims adds fuel to the fire of regional disputes and underscores the complexities of international relations in the modern era. In 2016, the Hague Tribunal delivered a landmark ruling in favor of the Philippines in the territorial disputes swirling around the South China Sea. Yet, China defiantly refused to acknowledge the verdict, setting the stage for ongoing tensions. The unveiling of the new map triggered swift and sharp reactions from several nations, including India, Nepal, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Taiwan. These countries were quick to express their discontent and concerns over China's bold assertions. Interestingly, the timing of the map's release raised eyebrows. It came just a week before the scheduled G20 summit in India, where Xi Jinping was expected to attend. However, recent news reports suggest that he may be backing out. Amidst the diplomatic flurry, India wasted no time in lodging a vehement protest with China, denouncing the so-called 2023 standard map that lays claim to Indian territory. A spokesperson for India's External Affairs Ministry minced no words, rejecting China's claims as baseless and warning that such actions only serve to complicate matters further. The animosity between India and China dates back to border skirmishes that erupted as far back as 1962. The recent clashes over the disputed areas claimed by China have reignited old tensions, resulting in casualties on both sides. Meanwhile, Malaysia's foreign ministry joined the chorus of dissent, vehemently rejecting China's unilateral maritime claims. They asserted that the new map encroached upon Malaysia's territorial claims in the states of Sabah and Sarawak. As the geopolitical chessboard sees new moves and counter-moves, the standoff over territorial claims in the South China Sea continues to simmer, underscoring the intricacies and challenges of navigating international relations in the modern era. Malaysia does not recognize China's claims in the South China Sea, as outlined in the China Standard Map 2023 edition, which covers Malaysia's maritime area, the ministry stated. Accordingly, the map is in no way binding on Malaysia. Meanwhile, Taiwan affirmed that it isn't a part of China and said that Beijing has never ruled the island. No matter how the Chinese government distorts its claims to Taiwan's sovereignty, it cannot change the objective fact of Taiwan's existence as an independent country. The CCP, which rules China as a one-party state, views Taiwan as a renegade province that must be united with the mainland by any means necessary, even though Taiwan has never been ruled by the CCP and has its own democratic government. Vietnam's foreign ministry spokesperson, Pham Thu Hang, said in a statement that China's new map violated Vietnam's sovereignty over the Paracels and Spratly Islands and the South China Sea. China's sovereignty and maritime claims based on this dotted line, as showcased in the map, are null and void. Claims of this nature blatantly violate international law, particularly the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. But the conflicts brewing in the South China Sea extend far beyond mere cartography. Just last month, tensions reached a boiling point as the Philippines and China clashed over an incident involving China's aggressive actions against Philippine vessels. China's actions have not gone unnoticed. They've not only fortified disputed islands, but also intimidated fishermen and harassed planes and ships from the US and other nations engaged in freedom of navigation operations, a move China claims threatens its sovereignty. The timing of the map's release is anything but coincidental. It comes hot on the heels of China's recent clash with the Philippines, sparking renewed debates over the validity of China's dashed line maps and reigniting international support for the 2016 tribunal ruling. Now, with China flexing its muscles and potentially looking to expand its influence, particularly concerning Taiwan, the stakes have never been higher. This timing couldn't be more critical, especially as members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, including the Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam, convene for a summit in Indonesia this week. As tensions escalate and the geopolitical landscape shifts, the world watches with bated breath, anticipating the outcomes of these high-stakes diplomatic maneuvers in the South China Sea. China and ASEAN have been locked in discussions to establish a code of conduct for the South China Sea, a region rife with territorial disputes and geopolitical tensions. In a routine press briefing on August 30th, China's foreign ministry spokesperson, Wang Wenbin, reiterated China's unwavering stance on the matter. According to Wang, China regularly releases standard maps to the public, aiming to promote widespread awareness and adherence to standardized mapping practices. Despite this, concerns from various parties persist, prompting Wang to urge for a calm and objective assessment of the situation. Just a day earlier, Wang addressed India's objections in a similarly dismissive tone, urging all concerned parties to refrain from blowing the issue out of proportion and to maintain composure amidst escalating tensions. While Southeast Asian nations have remained relatively quiet on the matter publicly behind closed doors, the Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs reportedly issued a confidential verbal note to the Chinese embassy, expressing vehement opposition to the depiction of the disputed dash lines as China's national boundaries. As diplomatic maneuverings unfold, the world watches with bated breath, anticipating the outcomes of these delicate negotiations and their potential implications for regional stability and international relations. Indonesia's historical quietude regarding the South China Sea may be awakened by China's latest move, which directly intersects Indonesia's gas-rich exclusive economic zone off Natuna. This could reignite concerns that Jakarta had hoped to bury after receiving assurances from China in the early 1990s. While Indonesia has yet to officially oppose the new map, it may be focusing on the positive acknowledgement of its maritime boundaries by China's cartographers. However, China shouldn't mistake Indonesia's silence for acquiescence. In truth, Indonesia's interests in maritime resources are at stake, despite not being directly involved in the Spratly Islands dispute. Jakarta once raised questions about the legitimacy of China's 9-dash claim back in 2009, even bringing the issue to the UN. Tensions escalated further in June 2010 when Chinese and Indonesian patrol boats had a standoff near Natuna. Then, in late March 2013, the presence of the PLA Navy near James Shoals stirred unease in Kuala Lumpur, a city that had previously felt relatively secure against China's territorial assertions. While maps themselves don't hold legal weight under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, China faces a crucial task: aligning its South China Sea claims with international law. Privately, some Chinese officials recognize the contradiction between China's obligations under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea and a maximalist interpretation of the 9-dash line as an all-encompassing territorial demarcation. They aim to reassure outsiders that China's claims encompass islands and other land features within the delineated lines, as well as vaguely defined historical rights. Even as the disputed islands and rocks in the South China Sea face unprecedented international judicial scrutiny, China's cartographers likely feel confident that Beijing's new leadership will maintain the ambiguity surrounding the full extent of their South China Sea claims, as afforded by the dashed line. In July 2016, the UN Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, acting on a case filed by the entire South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea, ruled against China. However, China has refused to accept the ruling. The United States supported the Philippines in the matter, arguing that it posed a direct threat to peace and stability in the region. South Korea and India, along with the US, Japan, and European nations, have backed the Philippines in its maritime disputes with Beijing in the South China Sea. China's recent use of a water cannon against a Philippine resupply ship has sparked global condemnation. In a landmark event last August, US President Joe Biden hosted a historic summit at Camp David, bringing together Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. While much public attention was drawn to their responses to North Korea's missile launches and China's assertive actions toward Taiwan, the growing influence of China in the South China Sea was also a key topic of discussion. A jointly issued document titled "The Spirit of Camp David" underscored the three nations' support for a ruling against China's expansive maritime claims in the South China Sea by an international tribunal in The Hague back in 2016. This tribunal rejected China's assertion of historical territorial rights within the so-called 9-dash line in the strategic waterway. Gregory Poling, a senior fellow at the Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies, highlighted this development on social media. The joint statement from the Camp David meeting marks South Korea's first public endorsement of the South China Sea Arbitration Award. This firmer stance reflects South Korea's evolving foreign policy, which now extends beyond the Korean peninsula, signaling a more outward-looking approach. During a joint press briefing following the summit, President Yoon committed to collaborating with the US and Japan in providing maritime security support to Southeast Asian nations. Key principles like respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, and peaceful dispute resolution anchor a rules-based international order which they vow to fortify through strengthened cooperation among allied nations. This historic gathering marked the first standalone leaders' meeting involving South Korea, Japan, and the US, aimed at broadening their collaboration to address security challenges posed by China. A significant outcome of their discussions was the unified stance they presented regarding the court ruling. President Biden commended their shared position, emphasizing their collective commitment to upholding international law, ensuring freedom of navigation, and peacefully resolving disputes in the South China Sea. India has recently aligned itself with the Philippines regarding the 2016 ruling on the South China Sea, marking its significance as another influential player in the region. Following a meeting between their foreign ministers in late June, India and the Philippines issued a joint statement emphasizing the importance of peacefully resolving disputes and adhering to international law, including the ruling by The Hague. The Biden administration is hopeful that the growing global coalition opposing China's actions will prompt Beijing to reconsider its aggressive behavior. The US has consistently conducted freedom of navigation operations and imposed sanctions on Chinese entities involved in the militarization of the South China Sea. However, despite these efforts, China's conduct has remained unchanged. If you found our content valuable, remember to like and subscribe for more informative updates.